All right, so in this video, I'm just going to be talking about why it is that we need common denominators and then how to add fractions using common denominators. And so if I think about a couple of things, so let's say I have a, I don't know, do the classic, like a piece of, like a pie, all right? So I got the one pie, and this one is divided into thirds, and another pie, and this guy's divided into fourths. Okay, and I have two of these, so that's 2/3, right? Two pieces out of the three wholes, and let's say I'm going to be adding that to 1/4. Well, all right, I can kind of visualize. So this third is going to be actually a little bit bigger, and so I can think about that 1/4. If I add that, that's going to be, you know, right here, and there's going to be that little sliver left, so not quite a whole. But I can't really just state exactly what number that is when they're broken up into thirds and fourths. So instead, I need to come up with some way where I can compare these units. And that's where the common denominator comes from. And if we think, well, how about I divide each of these up into thirds? All right, so 1, 2, 3, that means I have to divide these up into thirds. All right, so now there is 12 total slices here. Well, how can I get 12 slices here? So each slice, because I want each slice to be the same amount. That's the idea, is that we're comparing apples to apples. They're the same amounts. I can divide these into fourths. All right, and now there's actually 12 slices. Well, how many slices do I have? Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 12ths here, and now I have 3 12ths. And so when I add those, well, 8 plus 3 12ths, because that's how many I have, right? I have 3 plus the 8. That's going to be 11. And 11 what? Well, I have 11 even slices where 12 makes a whole. And so that's why we have these common denominators, and that's how we get the common denominators, right? If I have fractions that already have a common denominator, it's not a problem. It's when the fractions don't have that common denominator that I have that problem. So let's say, and for adding and subtracting. So let's say I have 7/8 minus 1/4. Right. This one's going to be pretty easy, because the idea is, how can I get these denominators to be the same? And the way I'm going to do that is I can multiply. So I can multiply just by looking at these numbers. I notice that if I multiply the 4 by 2, it's going to get to 8. Okay. If I do that, I also have to multiply the numerator by 2. And the reason is, I can't just multiply that denominator by 2. That would then give me 1/8. And 1/8 and 1/4 are clearly, those are different amounts. But I can multiply the 1/4 by 1. Right? 1/4 times 1, right? Anything times 1 is itself. And I'm going to choose what one I want to do, and that's going to be 2/2. So 2/2 is my 1 that I'm multiplying it by. It seems kind of weird, but it works. Because 2 divided by 2 is in fact 1. And so now I can just say, well, that's 7/8 minus 2/8 equals 5/8. So I've created the common denominators, and now I can subtract. And really, just when you're thinking about common denominators, just know I'm just multiplying. When I multiply by the bottom, I got to multiply by the top to get my common denominator. All right. And the same for mixed numbers. Like if I have 1 2/3 plus 4 and 5/2, okay? First, when I'm going to add these up, I know I have 1 plus 4, that's 5, plus 1, I got like 5/2 and 2/3. It's like, well, that's not immediately obvious. I think in this case, the easiest way is convert these to improper fractions and then add. You could add up the wholes and then deal with the fractions separately. But I think it's usually easier to make these improper fractions. So 1 2/3, well, that's just 1 is 3/3. So 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5/3 plus 2 times 4 is 8 plus 5 is 13. Okay, so I got 5/3 plus 13 halves. All right, now I need common denominators. Well, I can't just multiply either of these by a number to reach the other, so now I'm gonna have to multiply this. Well, if I multiply this by 3 and this by 2, they'll end up having the same denominators because they're both 3 times 2. All right, so that's gonna give me 10, 6 plus 13 times 3, that's 39, 6, and that's going to be 49, 6. And at this point, we can say, hey, we can try dividing to simplify here, but 49 isn't even, so 2 isn't in there, and 3, because I'm looking at the factors of 6, 3 also isn't a factor there. So this is actually in simplest terms, or we can write that as a mixed number too. Sometimes the problems, might ask for either improper or a mixed number. And so I take 49 and I can divide that by 6, and I'll get that mixed number, and then whatever the remainder is. All right, so there it is.